What's up, everybody, and welcome to a Wednesday edition of Morning Cuppa Hockey presented by Bet365. Check out Bet365's 3-goal early payout. When your team goes up 3, you get paid. It's that simple. Download the app today. You must be 19 plus. Please play responsibly. And we're also presented by Perasso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care. Made in Italy since 1948, Perasso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations. So get 15% off at Perasso-USA.com with our promo code Hockey15 in all caps. Hockey 15. That's Colby Cohen. I'm Jonny Lazarus. We got Marco D'Amico joining in about 5 minutes to talk about round 1 between the Montreal Canadiens and the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Eastern Conference playoff picture is set. We'll talk about that series. Then we'll go around the league with John Buccigross, who will be on at around 9:30. We will save our picks, Colby and I's official picks that will be going up against each other for tomorrow. We'll go into East and West tomorrow. But we'll start to talk about those matchups today. So lots to get into. I think the main topic of conversation to kick off the show, which I already see in the chat blowing up, is Rick Bowness's comments last night, which honestly, I love the emotion, Colby. I don't think he was even really that hard on the guys. He didn't really insult them, if you ask me. I mean, what'd you make of that?
Well, he did insult them, but he called out a group of players that have done this multiple years in a row.
I think they insulted him more than he insulted them.
Where they flaked out in the end. And, one thing that I've really come to know, especially working in broadcasting and having all the access to coaches that you get as a broadcaster at the NHL level, the NCAA level, these guys hate to lose more than they like to win. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's totally a thing. And that's why, I don't think, he didn't call out an individual player. He didn't call out leadership. He just called out the group, but he didn't, insult them. I don't think he said these guys. He just said these guys don't care enough. I don't think that's so insulting.
That's the worst.
You think that's so
thing.
Insulting?
That's the worst thing.
With how they played?
That is the sharp. Listen, you could swear, you can, MF guys, you can do all that. What Bones said was as deep and as harsh as you can be while being somewhat composed. And honestly, I loved it. I mean, they deserve it. These guys deserve to be called out for their culture, for not caring. I mean, listen, I've been on teams, Jonny, where you just know, you get to playoffs or you get around the playoffs and the desperation is just not there. You know how many times I've made fun of other teams and I've talked about they've already got their private jets and their yachts booked in Saint-Tropez or St. Bart's or wherever. I've done that bit before. Clearly that's what Rick Bowness felt about this team. He felt like it didn't matter enough to them to have the desperation and to sacrifice what it would take because they put themselves in a situation to get back into the playoffs and then they shit the bed. And their effort last night, even, zero. There's no pride in the group. You look how many times they turned the puck over last night. So
yeah, I think 23 turnovers.
I think this was very harsh, very insulting, and very, very well deserved by
that's why
the entire organization.
Does honest equal insulting? I guess that's maybe where I'm drawing the difference here. I see the chat giving me shit.
Sometimes the truth can be insulting. Sometimes honest truth can be very insulting. Do you know how many times I tell someone something that's the truth and it's insulting? It happens to me at least once a day.
Yeah, I guess because it's warranted, that's why I don't feel as strong as I see a comment here. Sharma said, Jonny, what if your boss at Daily Faceoff told you that? If I wasn't doing my job and they told me that, I would say yeah, you're right. I didn't do my job. Their job was to win games. They lost 6 straight games at home. They didn't show up. And that to me, I think Bowness actually showed a lot of emotion, but didn't necessarily go into it one-on-one and call guys out individually. I really think he held back.
Yeah, I don't think you need to. I don't think you need to call people out individually. I don't think that's necessarily the way to go about this. I think, for him to, again, I look at what he said, John. Like, I don't know. We're obviously not seeing eye to eye on this one. I don't really know what. I guess, if he would have called people out by name, but I mean, if you're the captain of that hockey club, that's who he was talking to. If you're an assistant captain, if you're a veteran, if you're any of those players, that's who he's talking to. If you're Adam Fantilli, that's who he's talking to. Adam Fantilli is supposed to be the face. He was supposed to be the guy coming in at 3. I'd pick number 3, but heralded as a guy who was pushing for the number 1 spot at one point. So I think that this was awesome. Like, you can see the passion. Isaac, I said he's supposed to be the guy. I didn't say he is the guy. I said supposed to. But you could see the passion, and you could see how emotional he was, how much he hates to lose. He was almost to the point of tears because he hates to lose so much. So I don't know. Like, I think this was warranted. I think it was great to see. He said he probably should have done it a month ago. I'm not sure it would have done anything a month ago. If you would have done this a month ago, I don't know. Like, he said, I should have done it. You know what I mean? But I feel like
a month ago they were winning games. They've dropped.
He said that in his press conference. But I see the poll, and it doesn't look like people think this, but I personally believe, now it is. It's back in Rick Bowness's fever. I believe he'll be the head coach next year.
Me too.
I believe that, from what I've heard, from what I've read, Don Waddell wants Rick Bowness back. And you could see the passion from Rick Bowness, which tells me, like, the fire still burns. He wants to be behind the bench of a hockey team. And Vic didn't like the part where he said, if I'm back. Listen, that's the reality of the situation. He doesn't have a contract. They haven't agreed on a deal. They haven't discussed it. But I think that Bowness will be back as a head coach. I think it'll be a short-term deal. I think it'll be a 2-year contract. But he'll, in my opinion, he will be back as the coach of the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Marco just texted me. He wants in on this conversation, so I'm not going to read him in. I'm just going to let him in. For me, I just saw, Marco, I'll ask you a question. I saw a comment from, I think it was General Soreness, saying calling your team out publicly, even when correct/deserved, is almost always the beginning of the end. I disagree, because this is a different situation where he wants to actually implement change next year and be a part of something. I don't know where you stand on this, Marco, but would love to get your thoughts.
I think Rick Bowness is a real one, and not enough is sometimes done when there is a cultural issue in the room. And I think that's where it's not an individual thing, but a collective issue. And I think we've seen this in other markets before where they've been called out. I agree that sometimes it's the beginning of the end, but you look at the way that this team bounced back, like, they were dead last in the East without Rick Bowness, and he comes in and kind of revitalizes them. But there are a lot of players, let's call a spade a spade. There are a lot of players that were picked really high that haven't hit. We were just talking about Adam Fantilli. I mean, I think he's going to be a fantastic player, but I
he had a great year last year.
Expecting, but I think you were expecting Fantilli
great year
last year.
He's
never had a great year.
30. He had 30 goals last year.
Fantilli did.
Yeah, he did.
Great year.
Last year this time, it was Anaheim fans freaking out because Fantilli was doing well and Karlsson wasn't. And now it's been flipped, and Karlsson had the fantastic season, and now it's Fantilli that's kind of waiting for it. But I think it's because
31 and 23. Yeah. That's still a really low number of assists, though. You get 31 goals and you only get 54 points. Is that a great year?
I think 31 goals, no matter what, is a great year.
I think it all depends on who
for
you
a second
play
year in the NHL.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's also it's the reason why they went after Marchment, for example.
Dick, put him in timeout. His laugh is so annoing.
Johnny or me? I didn't even laugh yet.
No, Marco.
Johnny.
It's never.
No,
he would never insult a guest. He would never insult a guest.
You should. But I think when it comes to Columbus, like, they were right there when they didn't need to be. I think what Bowness is calling out is the killer instinct. And that is something that has plagued Columbus long before him, Don Waddell, Adam Fantilli. it's something ingrained there that seems to be problematic. Heck, Patrick Laine called it out last year.
I know.
And I feel
that
like
quote's not looking so bad right now, is it?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's kind of ironic considering where both he and the Columbus Blue Jackets currently are, but it does bring to light a certain element that perhaps there is some change needed in Columbus. Perhaps there is some surgery needed in Columbus because, again, the team is so hyper dependent on Zach Werenski for success, and they're not getting the saves necessarily that they would normally get, except for the fact that Jet Greaves was fantastic down the stretch. To me, it's offense. It's the offense that it still hasn't jived. You have Kent Johnson that was picked top 5. Adam Fantilli was the 3rd overall pick. Caden Lindstrom is going back to the NCAA. What seems to be hurting them the most is that they've picked high. Adam Jiricek traded for a 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. They've picked high, and none of these guys have hit other than Fantilli, who has, I think, yet to reach a ceiling, and Matejchuk, who I thought had a really good season this year. Other than that, they haven't been elevated by their draft picks, and I think that's what's hurt them the most because you look at a team like Anaheim. Anaheim has been elevated by their draft picks. Seneca having a fantastic season this year.
Yeah.
Carlson, Gauthier,
Cutter.
In a draft pick.
Remember people were really questioned the Seneca pick, right? I mean, I think a lot of
even he was shocked.
So did he.
I think everybody thought that was a huge reach, but maybe it's time that we gotta I'm not sure we are doing this, but we probably gotta give Pat Verbeek a little grace and start to look at some of the weird things that he does and go, well, maybe he actually knows what he's talking about, right?
He got an extension too.
I can give a little bit of insight to that because I have spoken to a couple of Anaheim Ducks scouts, but basically it was Seneca's second half of the season was so strong in Oshawa and then into the playoffs that the progression curve that they thought he was going to have was going to be of an elite power forward. And because he was so scrawny, because he grew 7 inches in a year, it was about getting into his body and all that. There was a science to it, but the projection was that he would be one of those elite new gen power forwards like Bobby Ryan was for them back in the day. So that was the idea. And then it was basically the decision was between does Anaheim go for the guy that's in front of them that they could see in North America on a regular basis? Or do you take a chance on Demidov that you haven't been able to see live and only in video? And I think they made the choice. They also, I think, wanted a right shot specifically when it came to forward as well. And Demidov is a left shot that plays on the right. So a lot of factors, but I agree with you 100%. Deserves a lot of credit because in that top 5, that was the most questionable pick at the time. And it's probably the one that people look back on and say is the one that makes the most amount of sense nowadays.
I actually think outside of
Ryan Rizmierski, who's a scout in Anaheim, he was the guy who was overseeing player personnel at the national team for a very long time, 10, 11 years. And then he was with Nashville as an amateur scout for a while, Detroit, and he went with Verbeek to Anaheim from Detroit. He followed him there. He was working in Detroit. And so just give him a little bit of love and a little bit of shout out. He's obviously been doing this a really long time. And I'm sure that he had his hand in a number of those draft picks that you're bringing up. Go ahead, Jonny.
No, I was just going to say it's a good point about the righty lefty thing because I might need someone in the chat to fact check me here, but I'm pretty sure the only 2 righties in all of Anaheim's forward group are Seneca and Troy Terry. I don't think they have another right-handed shot.
That was a consideration. And they were all lefties. Carlson's a lefty. Yeah. Gauthier's a lefty.
Which is insane.
So their whole core was just lefties.
Killorn, Vetrano. I guess Ryan Strome was. Ryan Strome got traded.
But he was on. Exactly.
Yeah.
But it spoke to the overall depth. And I think he made it clear at the draft. Right shot defenseman, right shot top 6 forward. He found his right shot top 6 forward, and I don't think anybody's complaining about it in Anaheim right now.
Yeah. And you know what no one's complaining about, honestly, which I wanted to get into with you? All this talk was Minnesota versus Dallas and how these are 2 of the best teams in the league going head-to-head in round 1. So are Tampa and Montreal. You look at Tampa and Montreal right now in the league standings, they're 5-6, and now they're playing in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. And obviously, I think when you look at the matchups, all matchups are actually pretty even. You got Pittsburgh, Philly, you got Ottawa, Carolina, you got Buffalo, Boston, you got Montreal, Tampa. I don't think anyone would say there's a surefire like series that ends in 5 games. I think most people would see these going 6 or 7. And with you, Marco, like just the head-to-head matchup between these two, like while most people would probably favor Tampa, Montreal's been playing better hockey as of late. Have they not?
Well, you wouldn't be able to tell if you watched the game last night, but yes, they have been playing much better hockey as of late. Definitely better defensive hockey, I would say. But I think the thing that needs to be kind of factored in with Tampa is if we look at the standings and we look at the points, most man games lost to injury on defense. Victor Hedman hasn't played half the season, and that still remains to be seen what his status will be in the coming days. So there's a lot of questions when it comes to Tampa Bay, but they had a lot of guys step up, like Darren Radish's season. Like, for the love of God, complete offensive explosion to the point where he's being presented as like an elite offensive defenseman in the athletics piece, looking at the core of teams heading into the playoffs. So it goes to show you that they have that elite depth. And I think that is where they have a leg up on Montreal, is elite depth, because Montreal, very top heavy team, really strong young core, 5 players that, were in the 60-point range. Hasn't happened in a long time. And here you are going against Tampa. How are you going to match up when Tampa starts rolling out, the Sorelli line, and then right after that comes, the Braden Point line, and then right after that we have Yanni Gourde, who's had an excellent season, and you're running those 3 over and over again. And Montreal's top 9 has great talent, but they don't have that depth. So it's going to be a real fun test, not only for this team, but for Martin St. Louis as a coach, how he's going to juggle his lines and how he's going to play in regards to that matchup differentiation, especially with them starting on the road without the last change.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of goals in this series. I don't think it's going to be real goal friendly. Who's starting game 1?
For Montreal, Dobesh for sure, I would say.
Okay, so
and
Tampa, but do you think we'll see Fowler in the first round? Do you foresee somewhat of a back and forth? Like, let's say they drop game 1, do they go to Fowler in game 2?
Man, wouldn't that temptation be high that the Florida kid get to start game 2 in Florida?
That'd be
cool. Yeah, I mean, their stories could be written on that. That could push momentum. That being said, Martin St. Louis is also the kind of guy that goes to war with the soldiers that got him there. That's his style. So I don't think that they would pull the rug off from under Dobesh after 2 games, after one game. Now, if he loses the first 2, then the door opens wide open for Jacob Fowler to come in for game 3, because I think at that point, you've given him the necessary rope. Dobesh has to perform. I think that personally, I think they end up splitting the 2 games on the road, and then we'll see what happens at the Bell Center. And I think you have to give Dobesh that kind of rope, because if they lose the 3rd game and then you want to go back to Dobesh, like, that confidence is a little shot, because first moment's notice of him losing a game and you go back to the other goalie, like, the Canadiens have had trouble with that over the last year and a half of flip-flopping their goaltenders. So having a little bit of consistency in their strategy, I think, will go a long way as well.
Going into the playoffs, Marco, obviously, there's a love affair with Caulfield, Suzuki, Slafkovsky, right? Like those 3 are well beloved or beloved in Montreal. Playoffs, though. Last year, don't think you got enough from Suzuki. Don't think you got enough from Slafkovsky. So the seasons that they've had this year, like, and you can disagree. I mean, I know Cole had a decent first round. Lane had a decent first round. They lose in 5 last year.
Yeah.
Lost in 5. Like, how does it work with Montreal fans, right? Like, we always hear about the Canadian fans, like, just in general, Toronto, great regular season, come up short in the playoffs. Ottawa last year, just different story because it's their first time in a while. But let's say, these guys come up short first round. How do the fans feel? Give me a pulse read on the Montreal Canadian fan base with the great regular season versus maybe a first round exit against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on the how, right? Like, if they lose in 7 and every single game went to overtime and it was a battle.
Well, come on.
I mean, that's a different story. But if you go out the way the Canadiens went out last year in 5 games, then that starts asking questions. There are some in Montreal that feel that the Canadiens could be in the contention window status. I personally don't see that or share that opinion, simply because I don't think that they have the contending level amount of depth to be able to compete.
Totally
because
agree with you.
you look at it right now, and I've been talking about this for a while, but you look at it right now. Noah Dobson down with an injury, with a thumb injury. They have nobody to replace what he does. It's a by committee replacement. And it goes to show you that if they had a bona fide top 4 right shot defenseman, that defenseman would be able to jump into Noah Dobson's place and not miss a beat.
Well,
They
but
don't
hold
have
on.
that
Let
yet
me ask you though. Like, what do you? I mean, of course, everybody wishes they had bona fide top 4 guys on their third pair, but that's just not the reality of the National Hockey League. I mean,
even on their second pair. Who's the second pair right shot defenseman on Montreal?
Well, so like, obviously I get it. You have Reinbacher, who played there, at the last day or so, or a few days, but who will actually be in that spot? Like, what do you expect?
That's it. So I believe that Reinbacher will eventually hold that spot, but that's why I believe the window is not yet open for this team.
Yeah.
They're going to be fun to watch. It's going to be like when the Capitals started making the playoffs and how electric they were, but maybe the defense won't be there, especially with Noah Dobson not playing, right? Where I feel like you look at, the Tampa Bay Lightning, they lose Hedman for a bit. They lose McDonough for a bit, Cernak for a bit. Darren Radish doesn't miss a beat. Dastu comes up and is able to establish himself in the league. It's the next man up mentality. I feel like Montreal has the potential for that, but it's not something you can necessarily foresee. And then at forward, the forward is the most different ball game of all, because I think that they win the center line matchup, all day, every day, when you have Cirelli, Point, and Gord 1, 2, 3, whereas Montreal right now is still trying to figure out who is going to be at number 2. Be it Oliver Kapanen, be it Alex Newhook, and then who's going to be your third line center, either Jake Evans or Phil Deneau. Those are all hardworking individuals.
Yeah,
but you're
still
putting
Tampa.
A ton of pressure. You're putting a ton of pressure on Nick Suzuki.
Yeah. Do you expect Kirby Doc, a guy who's going to need a contract, to really have any effect on these playoffs? Because I think you and I have had this conversation before about, you look at Kirby Doc and, there's so much there when it comes to tools in the bag, or clubs in the bag, or whatever expression you want to use. But, you even watch him warm up, or you watch him practice, and you're like, this guy is a 6'3" puck handling, skating. I mean, you'd think, like, if I was going to draw out a prototypical star player in the National Hockey League, they'd look a lot like Kirby. And then the puck drops, and you just feel like he always leaves you wanting more. And now you get to the playoffs where the game gets harder, it gets more physical, the middle of the ice gets even more clogged and becomes a more difficult place to be in. And I look at his situation and I think about the injuries that he's had this year. I believe he's an RFA. Yes, he's an RFA.
Yep.
He makes 3.362. Do you think he has the type of playoffs to get him and secure a future in Montreal? Or do you think this is a guy that ultimately is on the move? Maybe you qualify him and then you put him on the move or something at some point this summer.
The problem is the qualifying, right? You look at his salary right now, but the qualifying offer is $4 million. And I don't know that you can necessarily say that he's worth $4 million right now, just with the injury history and the production that we've seen. Like, if, for example, we've seen this before, if the Canadiens chose not to qualify him, he would become a free agent, and then they would be able to negotiate a lower salary in consequence. That I could see moving forward. But if the expectation is, I want my 4 years, my $4 million, that's going to be a very difficult sell for the Montreal Canadiens, because they're going to want to add to their roster. Some of those players may come in with salary. That complicates things, because already the Canadiens have Josh Anderson at 5.5. They have Philip Deneau next year for 5.5. And we'll see what happens with Brendan Gallagher. But as of he's slated to play on the Canadiens next year, 6.5. That starts to become a very expensive bottom six, which granted they could theoretically afford because they've gotten such sweetheart deals from their core. But I just have difficulty seeing that, considering the logjam they have and considering the fact that they want to add different profiles to their bottom six so that they could have these guys elevate in the playoffs so that they could reach another level, maybe win another round, and we see what goes from there.
I'm sure you talked about this already, Marco, but this is my last one for you. You know, mentioning the center position and whatnot. Like, were you okay with Hage's decision to go back to school for one more year? Like, where'd you stand with that? Or is it, does it piss you off? I haven't heard you speak about it yet. I'm sure you have, but I haven't seen it or anything.
Yeah. I've done some digging on the topic for sure. Spoken to all parties. The Canadiens' preference was to see Michael Hage jump to the NHL just to be around the team. He wasn't going to play due to his ankle injury, but just to be around the team. And then next season you go into training camp and you see what happens. But the real issue was, more likely than not, he probably would have started in the American Hockey League next year. And then it became the question of AHL, NCAA. And I felt that it was a done deal that he was going to turn pro, because we rarely see players go back that have that kind of offensive portfolio that he has and go back to the NCAA for their junior season. It's rare. Jimmy Snuggerud, I think, was the last one to do that, but he had a regression in his offensive performances from freshman to sophomore. So it made a little bit of sense for him to go back to the University of Minnesota. With him in Michigan, if you're not watching the Wolverines play, maybe this is a detail that's missed, but he wasn't, he didn't feel like he was the guy in Michigan. And he also felt like he let his team down.
Number one. TJ Hughes was the number one center. I mean,
there it is.
He
TJ
was not
Hughes, 58%
he was not
in the face-off
he's
circle.
not the number one center. He wasn't taking every big draw. He wasn't out there protecting a lead at the end of a game. He was definitely the offensive catalyst. He was the guy who brought the puck in on the power play breakout. I mean, because I did watch them quite a bit, and I did watch him up close and personal in the Frozen Four. Like, he was not remotely healthy in the Frozen Four, not even remotely healthy.
High ankle sprains hurt a lot. What I would say though is, can he, this is the evaluation I've always had. He is ready to be a top 6 player in the NHL, or even a top 9 player in the NHL right now. I believe that 100%. But I don't believe that he could be a top 6 or go top 9 center in the NHL right now. And I think therein lies the difference. A lot of people will look at the World Juniors and say, but he led the tournament in scoring.
Yeah.
Yes, but when it mattered the most, Cole Reshny was moved to center and he was moved to the wing, right? And even when that top line for Canada was going well, Brady Martin was the one holding a lot of that responsibility down. Same thing applies with Michigan, and he feels it. And I think that shows a ridiculous amount of maturity, because you have to factor in his assistant coach at Michigan is one Max Pacioretty.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all know and love him. But Max Pacioretty, at his very beginnings in the Montreal Canadiens organization, publicly called out at the time Bob Gainey, Pierre Gauthier, GMs for the team, and said, send me back to Hamilton at the time. And if and when you call me up, it better be when I am 100% ready to be a top 6 player, not to be shelved on the 4th line. Yeah. This has the same energy. And I feel like it sucks because of the hype, and fans were expecting it. And there's an anxiety over filling that 2C slot, because as we just talked about, it is a sore spot. It is an area of weakness organizationally. But I think Michael Hage could go back to Michigan, be the guy. They're going to have another loaded team, and then jump ship in April of next year and be a plug-and-play top 6 center. Is that not the goal in the end?
It's the goal, and I think everything you said is right, other than the fact that I think without the puck, I don't think he's ready, to be honest. Like, I truly don't believe without the puck, Michael Hage is ready to really be a guy who you can rely on, and I think his injury factored into it. But I just used the Ryan Green, Macklin Celebrini example, and Hage has much higher ceiling than Ryan Green, although Ryan Green's looked pretty damn good in the NHL this year.
Yes.
He wanted to go back and be the number 1 center once Macklin left. So he went back for his junior year. He was the number 1 center. Now he's never played in the American League, right? And so he bypassed that whole process by that one extra year. Marco, We really look forward to this playoff series. It's going to be tremendous. I think it's going to be one of the highest scoring series in the first round. So I think we'll all be really, dialed in and enjoying it. We'll catch up with you again during the series. We'll want to hear from you for sure. So we'll appreciate you coming on today, and we'll talk to you soon. All right.
Thanks, Marco.
Sounds like a plan, guys. Take care.
All right. Talk to
Be
you
good.
soon.
Appreciate you. We do have John Buccigross waiting here, but before we bring him on, just a quick word from our sponsor, JP Wisers. No matter where your team sits this season, watching the game with your crew makes everything better. The wins feel bigger and the rivalries hit harder. As the official whiskey of the NHL, JP Wisers is all about those moments that matter from October through June, the rituals, the midweek matchups, and the regional rivalries that bring friends together. Because when you get the crew together for game night, that's a W. This season, fans can look forward to limited edition products and plenty more from JP Wisers. So to stay up to date, visit jpwisers.com and subscribe to the JP Wisers newsletter for the latest on limited edition drops, products, and more. You must be legal drinking age, so please enjoy responsibly. With that, let's bring on friend of the show, fresh off a new contract announcement. Congratulations to John Buccigross. What's up, Bucci? How you doing?
Hello. Good morning, boys.
I'm scared. Colby, you start.
You're scared? What? Just by looking at him, you got scared?
I don't know.
You're that.
Yeah,
you're that fragile.
he
Seen
intimidates
my
me.
stature in person.
I saw him run up the stairs in Vegas and not take the escalator. I know what he's all about.
Butch, I want to start with the whole Alex Ovechkin thing from last night with you. I know I texted you about it, but we're laying in bed. I don't know how many people saw this, but you guys had this special you played on ESPN last night of Ovi and all these people that he's helped. And we're laying there in bed, my wife and I watching this, and the throat lump, the eyes welling. I mean, that was the most emotional story that I have seen within hockey in some time.
Yeah, it was great. I think ABC debuted it over the weekend while we were doing the Frozen Four, and then it had a pretty good social run as well. And then we played it again last night. Yeah, it was really extraordinary. Something he really hasn't, I wouldn't say hid over the years, but, you didn't see a lot of that. And so it took some, I guess, behind the scenes. You had to talk his wife into it. She was very important on doing that. He wasn't really big on it at first. And a couple of ESPN people behind the scenes got together and made that happen, went down there and shot it. And I think in the end, I'm sure Ovi glad he did it because, it was very powerful.
Yeah.
And the way it was produced and the people's message, it was something. It was great. I agree.
You seem to always be ahead of the curve when it comes to predictions. You were within days of Ovi breaking the record when you predicted this something like 10 or something more years ago. So then I'll ask you this, do you believe that was the last time that we're going to see Ovi play a game in the NHL? Because he's really he's pushed back on that a little bit. And even comments after the game last night, you guys played him on your show. He said, I hope this isn't my last game.
Yeah, I think part of it was that faraway look in his eyes as the ESPN cameras were in the locker room. He was taking his gear off, his sweater, those shoulder pads that looked like they were 25 years old.
Yeah.
And then, so you could see that look. I thought it was like, man, is this it? Do I really want this? Because I think he probably decided a while ago this would be it. We saw a lot of jersey swaps and we saw a lot of things like that. And then I think it kind of hit him. And then afterwards, talking to the media, it was probably like, well, I don't know yet. I'm not sure. And I think that might have been real-time Ovi just kind of talking what was inside him, his head and his chest and his stomach. And so there might have been a little bit of, wait a minute, maybe I don't want to do this. I'm sure deep down he doesn't, but I know he probably doesn't want to train this summer, probably doesn't want to do all the other stuff you have to do anymore. That's what it is. People like the games.
He didn't do that when he was still playing, though, in the summer.
Yep. But, I like broadcasting. I don't like checking into Courtyard Marriott's 50 times a year. So, that's the stuff that'll eventually drive you away, not the actual games or the actual job. So, but yeah, so I still do think in the end that was it. But there was a lot of, I think, very on the sleeve examples of someone who's really kind of running through his entire career there last night in Columbus, Ohio.
Bucci, while we're talking Ovi and the Caps, Vic and I were talking before, we went live this morning about just how close this Eastern Conference playoff race ended up being. And I doubt, both of you guys caught the NBA playoff or playing games last night, and they were both incredible. I mean, the end of the Miami-Charlotte game was insane. And then the Trailblazers have a crazy comeback in the fourth quarter. But like, how much longer can the NHL, Gary Bettman, and just hockey fans avoid this? Like, I feel like we have this conversation every year when the NBA playing games happen, because year after year they deliver. And if we had a Capitals versus Ottawa Senators kind of like best of three happening this weekend to take the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference, but like, who wouldn't watch that? You know what I mean? Like, I am team NHL playing game. Like, I am all on board for that. And I feel like at some point, if the NBA keeps delivering year after year with how good these games are, the NHL at some point is going to have to fold. I don't know how you feel about it, Bucci.
Yeah, it's probably packaging and marketing. People probably need to be reminded this is important. Watch this now. And yeah, going way back when I'd write my hockey column, started, that's over 20 years ago I started. I think I kind of did like an 8-9 play-in game doubleheader to kick off the playoffs. 8 plays 9, one game in the East, 8 plays 9 in the West, just as a way to kind of kick off the postseason. You do a preview show in between, and you kind of make it a big deal doubleheader. Maybe we do one, and TNT does one. And when you look at it nowadays, the old days, only one person had all the games, so that was kind of when I wrote it from that perspective. But anything.
It's a game 7 to kick off the playoffs.
Johnny,
it's a game 7.
You also would prefer ties in hockey. Like like why play the regular season if the entire league is going to get in? I mean, there has to be a reason that you play 82 games. It's to get into the top 8 and make the playoffs. So now what are we going to do? We're going to have 14 of the 16 like, where do you cut that off?
Okay, Bucci, I'm sorry. That argument is so stupid, because it's literally 1 through 7, you're still automatically in. And the 8 and 9, it's just one game. Everyone wants to avoid being in the 8 or 9, and everyone wants to be in the top 7. It doesn't take away from anything in the 82 game season. It just gives one team who's within 2 points the extra shot at making it. Like, Ottawa could have ran away.
But you're within 2 points. You didn't make it to the cut line. Why are we moving the cut line?
Because you get a game 7 to kick off the playoffs. Like, the game last night was unbelievable. Like, those NBA games were unbelievable last night. Unbelievable. And I'm sure the ratings on them were great. So with this, if every team playing 82 games gets in the top 7, that's the goal, and you're just outside the top 7, guess what? You got to win one more game to get in. I don't see any problem with that. I don't think it takes away from 82 games or 84.
Yeah, I think from a logic standpoint, Colby's argument makes sense. That's Gary Bettman's argument. That's a very logical, kind of lawyerly argument. Like, these are the rules. You have 82 games to make the playoffs.
So
but our society is more squirrel. We got to give them reasons to watch. And a doubleheader probably would get good ratings. Probably would sell the sport a little bit. Let an attention getter. Hey, the playoffs are starting. For some people who don't know, we live it, so we know when they're going to start. But other people don't. Mm-hmm. So I'd be okay with something like that. I understand both sides. You have 82 games to make the playoffs to get in the top 8. But if you did have one extra, you could make it a thing. Just make it like, soccer has 14 different tournaments a year. You got your league, you got your champions, you got your UEFA something, and you got your Copacabana Cup or whatever's going on there. So they do all kinds of stuff. So yes, maybe sometimes you have to create these things that seem important.
Yeah, I just felt like, especially this year, we didn't know. The Flyers made the playoffs game 81, and Montreal. Not Montreal. The Islanders got eliminated in game 79, and Columbus got eliminated. Like, I feel like we all want to change things, and the 1 through 8 that needs to change. Like, no doubt in my mind that needs to change, but. I just feel like there are other things that aren't broken, and I don't think we need to fix it. And I think that when you're settling who's playing who and who makes the playoffs anywhere from game 79 to 82, maybe we could just be like, you know what? This is actually exactly what you're looking for. You're looking for the Flyers to have meaningful games where the Islanders are scoreboard watching after a brutal loss. And I don't know, like, maybe I'm too traditional. I try to be open-minded, but I think that stuff's okay. I really do. I mean, I have not watched 3 minutes of the NBA in I don't know how many years, Johnny. So I can't comment. Like, I have no idea. I mean, I could name LeBron James and Steph Curry and a few other people that play basketball, but like, I mean, at this point, I'm so clueless on the NBA, Johnny. So I really have no idea when you're making comparisons to the NBA.
Fair enough. Totally fair. Totally fair. We can switch gears, go into some of these matchups that we're looking forward to. Bucci,
talk to him about Boston and Buffalo, because I feel like those are two teams, Butchie, where you've had some good calls. You've been on them. You kind of were ahead of the curve with both of those teams. You loved the Sturm hiring when they made the hire. I remember you were really high on that one. And Buffalo's a team I think you gave more credit to, and a lot of people had them in the dumps. So, I just feel like we have no idea what to expect in that series. Like, is Buffalo going to need to learn how to win in the playoffs by getting their asses kicked? Or are they going to come out and just continue this insane assault that they've put on the National Hockey League for the last few months?
Yeah, probably the former. This is different. Playoffs, it's difficult to get experience and to learn. And so it'd be surprising if they came right out and played Buffalo Sabre, run and gun, fire wagon, pond hockey that they were kind of accused of during the regular season. The Bruins will be they're trained in this area, this slow it down, playoff, tight checking. It'll be a little bit difficult, I think, for Buffalo. Swayman's obviously a goalie who's had playoff success. Buffalo, you could see a guy getting rattled and maybe going to the other guy, and that possibly could happen with the Sabres. So I don't think it would be outlandish to pick the Bruins here. I mean, the Sabres are certainly a better team. They have 108 points for a reason. They're heavy. They have stars. They have guys who can finish from distance with Tuck and Thompson. They're a good team protecting 6-on-5 with Tuck. Dahlin's a star. They have some depth. So, yeah, I mean, Buffalo is definitely the real deal. But, yes, the postseason is different. And you never know how it's going to be called. And their power play has not been good right now. So if they get chances, sometimes when it is frustrating 5-on-5, when it is tighter checking, you get some relief on the power play. But if your power play is not going well, and it's not going well for Buffalo right now, then that can be extra frustrating as well. So, yeah, I still think they need to pass the test. And there are some questions for the Sabres. And
with that, too, I'm curious, we've seen Buffalo kind of step in and have each other's backs and, be somewhat, quote unquote, like, I guess, bullies a little bit down the stretch here, right? Like, they're trying to impose their will on opponents, but you can't really do that all that much. Like, you don't want to be the one to take a stupid penalty after a whistle, right?
Right.
Like, do you think that changes at all in the Sabres game? Because the Bruins, Colby, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You've probably seen more of Boston than I have, but the Bruins don't seem like a team to me that's going to try to stir it up after a whistle. Like, I don't see that coming from Boston in this series.
I don't know.
Maybe guys like Kastelik.
Yeah. I mean, those three men are out, to make you feel pain the way that
I could see them baiting the Sabres. You know what I mean? I could
see for
Boston
sure. No doubt.
them a little bit.
Zadorov, Jeannot, Kastelik, they're definitely going to try to get them going a little bit, shoulder shoves, chest shoves, get them off their game. No doubt that's the Bruins tactic. They're going to, I think they feel like they're going to have to do that as part of their plan. That goes way back, Montreal, Boston, Sean Thornton, PK Subban. Like, they're definitely going to, I think, try to rattle their cages a little bit for sure. But in the end, it's going to come down to, obviously, Pasternak producing another amazing
100 points
year.
last night. Yeah.
I have on my top 5 MVP ballot. I think what he's done, career high in assists, how he makes other players better, how he's evolved from a sniper to making teammates better. And he's always been a gritty guy who's not afraid to bleed and get ugly and all that stuff. So it's, he needs to produce. And then, that Zacha, Arvidsson, Middlestat line's been outstanding. This is one of the little storylines. Casey Middlestat going back to Buffalo is kind of cool. I'm sure he's going to be pretty juiced about this. And so, yeah, this is a really good series. This goes back, the Bruins and Sabres go back a long way. In my childhood, The French Connection line was a big deal. They made the finals. They lost to the Flyers. They almost won the Stanley Cup in 1975. And then, of course, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. And then Brad Park, when I was a kid, scored an overtime goal against the Sabres in the playoffs. So this is a really good series. People don't realize this. These two teams go back, 50 years playing significant hockey games, the old Adams division. So I was looking forward to this one. I wanted Detroit Buffalo ultimately for two teams, but Boston Buffalo is a real good matchup.
Yeah. When Middlestat comes back into the top six, that means, I don't know, I guess it's, Michael Eyssimont gets bumped out of the top six, right?
Yep.
What do you do? Because you're not going to break up the fourth line. That's the identity line. Minton and Huzadinov is not coming out. So does Hagens end up starting in the press box for game one? I mean, he's looked, to his credit, and I know these last two games haven't meant as much, but like, he's looked pretty good. He does give you a little bit more of a scoring touch than Eyssimont. I guess Eyssimont. I forget. He was just coming in the NHL when I was doing the games in Chicago, so I forget how we say it. But that becomes a tough decision that they probably go with experience to start. But what do you think about that, Butchie? Do you think Hagens at least finds his way into the playoffs at some point?
I do. I think it's part of the plan for him and this team. But yeah, I agree. I think he probably sits game one if everybody's healthy. But like you said, I think Eyssimont does have a bit of a grit. He's a little nastier than Hagens right now. But I think they saw some Hagens electricity on how he plays with his head up. It can make people better. But yeah, I think ultimately Hagens would start in the press box game one. See how game one goes. If you win it, you roll out the same lineup. But if you lose, it does give you a chance to maybe counter with something that can change things up.
It also gives you a dynamic offensive player that if there is an injury, right, like, and you feel confident once he has his feet wet, ideally you feel like, all right, we could slide him in there, although the matchups are a lot tougher. I do like that. Again, he did play, we saw the assist that he had. Like, he looks to be more aggressive the way he's forechecking in the NHL than in college. He looks like he's playing with more jam. And really good players do realize, hey, like, what I did there isn't enough that I got to do here. So again, like, a kid that, like, I felt like, hey, he needs to be in the American League, although I thought he should have forced his way right into the NHL. He's looked good, and I want to just give credit where credit's due. After feeling like he was too much of a perimeter guy at BC, he hasn't looked to be on the perimeter. Like, maybe he heard, I'm sure that was a wide criticism of him from a lot of people, and maybe he's like, hey, I'm going to have a chip on my shoulder, and I'm going to make sure that I get on the inside a little bit, Johnny, and so far, so good. Right. Yeah.
I mean, I think he also hasn't had to carry the puck as much, which probably helps, right? If you're carrying the puck, you're usually, for the most part, on the outside. But yeah, Colby, I think he definitely gets in the playoffs. Whether that's game 2, game 3, game 4. I definitely would lean more towards seeing James Hagens play a playoff game than not. But Bucci, I'm just wondering for you, like, do you know your schedule yet? Do you know which series you will be covering? Is it that series? Or
we got a couple of, the bosses sent a couple of texts, maybe looks like we got to wait to see, the Canadian teams, where they are, how Sportsnet wants those games, when they would like those games. So yeah, right now it's surprising, because a lot is set, but yeah, still haven't got that text where I'm flying to tomorrow, right? Well, tomorrow's on Friday. I fly somewhere Friday. So yeah, we'll see after tonight, maybe a little more clarity, or maybe something will happen this afternoon. But yeah, as of now, and I talked to Sean McDonough last night, he doesn't know where he's going yet. I thought maybe him and Ferraro would be all over Penguins, Flyers, but maybe Sabres, Boston's going to be a juicy one. Depends when the arena availability and time. And so there's a lot goes into it. But yeah, I'm surprised. I thought maybe we would have some clarity by now, but maybe it's another night of hockey until we get that.
I hope you're on Philly Pitt. I mean, that would be the win for me, because then we'd get to hang.
I'm usually Mr. Canada. I think it's got to be Tampa Bay or Edmonton for me.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay, Montreal. I mean, what a series that's going to be. Yeah, what a series that's going to be. Unreal. That's going to be insane. But do you know? We don't have any clarification yet on when the first games are. Right? They said Saturday night it's supposed to start, but I've been seeing Sunday. Like, have you guys heard anything in
Also,
regards to the
playoffs are
schedule?
definitely starting Saturday.
Definitely
It's
starting
just a
Saturday
matter
night.
of what
Okay.
I think 4 games on Saturday. It's
Wow,
just a
okay.
matter of what time and what networks and or what what I think more of the times and working with Canada, because I think we know our lineup pretty good on Saturday.
Are you? Do you know who you'll be with? Are you partnered? Do you know at least who your wingman will be for the first round? So you're really just
I
it's
don't.
all up in the
Could
air,
be
huh?
Cassie. If I'm in Edmonton, probably Cassie Campbell. If I'm east with Raleigh or Tampa, I'd probably be with AJ. So yeah, don't know yet. No.
Maybe AJ, EJ, or TJ. Wow, you guys really AJ, EJ, and TJ are three
That's
of
right.
the. It was cool. I thought well done by ESPN to get TJ Oshie between the benches for that game.
Really good.
And I really liked the question that you asked him with Ovi last night, because you could see like he when you know someone so well, you don't necessarily think, it's just all so normal to you. So I loved how TJ was involved in the broadcast last night for Ovi's potential last game. Like, I thought that was just smart, well done, well thought out. And I thought you led him to like pull more out of TJ and talking about Ovi and talking about the whole thing. So it'll be fun to see guys like him and Eric Johnson doing the playoffs this year, guys that have had cups and runs but they're young guys. Like TJ and
Right.
EJ are young guys who just went through it. So I think
And
coverage will be
PK.
really good this year.
I mean, PK's younger than Eric. It's like people forget how young PK is. So yeah, that I do like that about ESPN and our broadcast team this year. We've really gotten, because that's important to have guys who just retired, or have friends still in the league and know the terminology and the trends. And so yeah, I mean, so I like our mix. Certainly with Ferraro and then Weeksy and certainly these guys really bring a lot of young juice to our broadcast, which is very unique. You look around the other networks who do hockey in North America, and we definitely probably have the youngest squad.
Mm-hmm. Just as far as other series go, and we'll stick with the East for now, Bucci. Like, which one? Obviously the Pittsburgh Philly one like has a huge draw with that rivalry, but I think people are sleeping on this Carolina Ottawa one. We kind of touched on it yesterday. It seems like the trend is starting to pick up. Like, I've heard a lot of people say, Colby, I don't know if you've been hearing this too, that they're going to pick Ottawa to beat Carolina. Like, are you on that train as well? I said it. I heard. I think Witt said it. I've definitely seen 2 or 3 more people say it, but. Bucci, where do you stand with this Carolina-Ottawa series?
Yeah, man. Carolina had a great year. First time they've ever been a 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. Haven't got to the finals under Rod Brind'Amour. They're very good at home. But yeah, I mean, Ottawa they're a threat for sure. Brady Tkachuk's going to get in the middle down low, and he's going to try to stir a whole bunch of stuff up, because you can seem to do that against Carolina. It seems like Sebastian Aho has got to kind of pick up a lot of that slack. He's like the one guy who doesn't mind a confrontation now and then. Nobody else on that team is real interested in that and doing that. There's not a lot of nastiness on Carolina. And that's how they're built. Let's face it, they're an analytic-driven organization, and that's kind of how they're built. And although I think they do understand that part, especially the coach. So it's just a matter, can Carolina find some offense? Who's going to play goalie? So yeah, there are enough questions in the way Ottawa finished that you could certainly, picking any of these teams. I mean, the league is so tight now that you could really, I don't think there's any outrageous pick that you could make in the Eastern Conference. Like, you really could go either way on all 4 series.
Mm-hmm.
The West maybe not quite as much, obviously. The Avalanche opening series and is the one, but even after that, and maybe if the Oilers do play the Ducks, I think that's a significant Oiler favorite there. That's a good matchup for them.
Yeah.
But everything else is a coin flip, and that includes Ottawa and Carolina. I would probably still tend to favor Carolina a little bit, but Ottawa, you wonder deep down, is that room completely tight and together? So that's the big question there. But no doubt about it. These series are all tight.
Yeah. I still think we're just forgetting how much of a machine and how much pressure Carolina puts on teams. I mean, I watched even the game that they sat all the guys against Philly. Like, they're still their DNA so big, even with Delorier on playing in the second or third line that night. Their DNA of the way that they skate and swarm is so problematic for players. And it's so difficult to play against night in and night out. And you start to cheat the game against them because you just feel like you have no opportunity. So you start above the pile. You start, you cheat on the offensive side of things. I still, we're not making our official picks today, but I think it's interesting to see people that are starting to jump off that Carolina bandwagon. I'm not going to be doing that. Butchie, last question that we have for you today. It's a quick question in the West, and it's because you sort of just hit on it. We've been going back and forth all week talking about, like, I think you'd rather play Anaheim in the first round than Utah if you're Vegas or if you're Edmonton. But you'd also rather home ice in the second round. So there's give and take for both. If you could choose and be, you could be matchmaker here for the playoffs. Who would you rather see in the first round? Would you rather see Anaheim or would you rather see Utah?
Yeah, I'd rather see Anaheim. Utah is a top 5 goals against team in the NHL. Like, they will play structured, pretty good defense. I'm not a Vemelka fan per se, but they have a good veteran defensive group, and they know how to suppress goals, where the Ducks do not. They've given up 284. I think they're a little loose. They're very young. This is going to be different. Now, Utah is not big, and they're not real nasty, but they are pretty clinical and structured. So maybe that is one thing they need to address as well. Like Carolina, they probably need to get a little more personality, a little more. But those guys are hard to find. That's why they're so valuable. But yeah, I would rather play the Ducks than the Mammoth. I think, just because, again, defensively, Anaheim is just not in the same ballpark as Utah. And if it's going to slow down and going to get tight in the playoffs, then that makes Utah even better. And I think the Ducks are going to struggle.
I agree. I'm just a little afraid. I mean, imagine going up against Jacob Trouba and Racco Gudis in a playoff series.
Yep.
They'll
bring it. We know we've seen him
fun.
before, so they'll definitely make it nasty for sure. But I think the Oilers would like to have the Ducks in the first round. They have no problem sitting there second place in the Pacific.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah,
Colby. We love you. I know you're busy now. You've got your show now, your daily show that you do with Frank at noon every day, Frankly Hockey. We'll be, always keeping our eye on that. We appreciate you coming on. I got to tell you, man, I was texting with you last night. I hope it's making it to the timeline of your Twitter feed. Butchie had a line in the regionals when we were doing Denver, and he said the standard is the standard and the standard is Denver. And, yesterday during the banquet that the Pioneers were having, assistant captain Boston Buckberger finished his speech with that tagline. And I just think that tagline is something they're going to use for every recruiting video, every pump-up video.
It'll go up in the locker room.
I think so too. I think they'll put that in the locker room. And man, that's so cool for you to come up with that live on a broadcast. And for that tagline is going to live with that program for probably decades to come. So man, I love you so much. You have no idea. You're the best. And that's so cool.
Well, that's why I love doing the Frozen Four, because you're part of these people's scrapbooks forever. That's why I love the Frozen Four. It's why I like college hockey, is that they'll show those highlights to their kids and grandkids 60 years from now. So you're a part of that. That's the intimacy of college hockey, the connections. That's why I love doing it.
I actually don't even know if you know, David Carl said in his post-game presser about Ken Anderson and the overtime goal, you probably didn't pick him on your Bucci overtime challenge. But that's just
one person.
Did you hear that?
Yeah. One.
Yeah.
As soon as I get back home to Naples, I'll mail him some swag. But Eric Boynton, he was the only guy who got it. So,
awesome.
Eric's going to get some Denver hats and T-shirts.
I can't wait for the playoffs, because that means we'll be doing Butchie overtime challenges all the time. So
that's
your
all
hashtag
I need. Another
in.
Job, another full-time job. That's all I need.
Get your hashtags in, people. All right, Butchie, I love you, pal. We'll see you on TV later, okay?
Peace. Tomorrow night.
Right. Thanks, Butchie.
TJ.
Awesome. All right, Colby, this is it. Pretty much the last thing we got to talk about now is our Bet365 bet of the night, and tomorrow it's all playoff hockey, and the rest of the way it's playoff hockey. So tonight our Bet365 bet of the night. There are a few things more stressful than a close hockey game. One late back check can make all the difference between a chance at playoff glory or an early spring tea time. That's why Bet365, an official partner of the NHL, is offering 3-goal early payout. If the team you're riding goes up 3 goals at any point in the game, they'll pay your bet out early. Hockey fans have enough things to stress about with 3-goal early payout. Now your bets don't have to be one of them. Bet365, download the app today. And tonight we are looking at the San Jose Sharks and the Chicago Blackhawks. Obviously, this game doesn't have a whole lot of meaning, but who doesn't want to watch Macklin Celebrini and Connor Bedard when the games don't really mean all that much for these next 2 days? So I'll be watching that game. Going to take the Sharks money line -125. They're the better team. They do have another game tomorrow, but you got to think they're going to try to finish on a high note here. So Sharks money line tonight. Tomorrow we'll go through each playoff matchup. I don't know if the West will be fully set tonight. Hopefully it is. So if not, maybe we'll just go through the ones that are done tomorrow. But we'll be giving our picks. We'll be giving the games. And we want to know what the chat has to say about each series. So come in hot tomorrow. Come in ready. Come in prepared. Because I know I'll be taking my notes. I'm studying. I'm taking my notes on these series. So, this is something that I want to beat you in. I want to get more first-round predictions right than you. So
last year, I'm pretty sure both of our brackets were destroyed after the
because we both had Tampa. I think we both had Tampa winning.
Tampa last year. Yeah, we did not fare well in the playoffs last year. So with that, make sure you hit the like button on today's episode. Likes were a little bit down yesterday, but we did get a lot of views. Make sure you subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. I will be on Daily Faceoff live at noon today with Tyler Yaremchuk, so I look forward to that. Make sure you leave comments on the YouTube stream. And most importantly, go to Spotify or Apple Podcasts on your phone and download the episodes on those as podcasts, audio only. We're looking to do a record, basically next 45 days, the second half of April into May. We're trying to, get this well up over 100K just in that short span of time. So make sure we did both have Colorado too, Carly, you're not wrong. So make sure you subscribe and make sure you download the audio version. Tomorrow, Thursday, April 16th, will be our last 4-day week of the season. After that, we will be going to 5 days. Starting next week, we will be every Monday through Friday, our normal time. My Titan season is over, so our shows will probably get longer. Johnny's not having to run to pregame skates, and it's not like you're going to cover the Devils, the Islanders either. So
nothing.
You will have time. I will have time. We will be flushing out these playoff series, and we will be spending as much time with you every morning as we feel like we need to. So it's just starting to get good. It's the most time. It's the most enjoyable time of the year for all of us. So get your rest tonight. Be with us tomorrow. We'll rest up Friday, and then it's playoff hockey on Saturday, everyone. Have a great day.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to Morning Cuppa Hockey here on the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. And don't forget, we've got more great hockey content every day. You can catch DFO live at noon and stick around for the Sheet with Jeff Marek at 1 p.m. right here on Daily Faceoff. Until then, keep your coffee hot and your takes hotter.